Hello, welcome to Ed's Reading Room Owls for children of 7 and over. I've got two fantastic books for you, both hilarious but very, very different. The first is called Monster Swap, and this is the series Monster Swap, and this book is called Robbie and Voxy, and this is by Johnny Zucker. And the second book is by quite a well-known name, David Walliams, and this is called Billionaire Boy. Monster Swap. This is about Robbie and Voxy. Robbie is the boy and Voxy is a monster. Now, we've all heard of exchanges where children go and stay with other families, sometimes in one's own country or maybe abroad, but this is a very different exchange. Great fun. How would you fancy going to stay with a monster's family and then have the monster come and stay with you? Well, this is exactly what happened to Robbie. I'm going to read a little bit at the beginning of the book. The first part of the exchange is Robbie goes to stay with Voxy, and here he's just about to arrive. "Hold tight," shouted the pilot as the plane swooped down. "Where's the runway?" yelled Robbie Percival, looking out of the window and seeing a huge patch of tall, spiky red grass below. "There isn't one," cried the pilot. "You're the first human ever to come here." Robbie couldn't believe it. He was about to meet a real monster. He'd been excited about it for weeks, but now he was here. His mind was racing. What will Voxy look like? What will I do during my visit? Will it be dangerous? And most importantly, what kind of food will the Zorbs eat? The plane touched down and bumped over the red spikes at great speed until it came to a crunching halt. Robbie had just unclipped his seatbelt when the cockpit door was yanked open and a pair of enormous paper-thin ears lifted him out of the plane. The ears placed him gently down on the ground. Robbie looked up in amazement at the owner of the ears. They belonged to a monster who was 10 feet tall and 3 feet wide. His body was covered in light blue fur. He had twinkling dark blue eyes, thick bushy eyebrows with thin wire-like strands spaced along them, and a brown snout with 4 nostrils at its base. His 2 thin arms ended in 7-fingered claws. His 2 feet were large, puffed up and webbed, and his long tail was flat, like a narrow plank of wood. So that's when Robbie first sees Voxy. He gets a great welcome in Voxy's household, but he finds that he's very soon involved in a boulder battle. This is rather terrifying, particularly as he's so much smaller than all the monsters around him. This is great fun, this story. The second part of the book is where Voxy goes to stay with Robbie with his family. Equally good fun. I'm sure you're going to enjoy this book. The second book by David Walliams is Billionaire Boy. Now, the billionaire boy is Joe Spud. He's a 12-year-old and he has everything. He's got racing cars and all sorts of things. Whenever it's his birthday, his father gives him an enormous cheque, but he's missing one thing. He realises that his life isn't really complete at all. And this is fairly near the beginning of the book that I'm starting to read. He's just been given a great big cheque from his father for his birthday, but somehow it's not really what he wanted. "Can I have a proper present as well, Dad?" said Joe as he put the cheque in his trouser pocket. "I mean, I've got loads of money already." "Tell me what you want, son, and I'll get one of my assistants to buy it," said Mr. Spud. "Some solid gold sunglasses. I've got a pair. You can't see out of them, but they're very expensive." Joe yawned. "Your own speedboat?" ventured Mr. Spud. Joe rolled his eyes. "I've got 2 of those, remember." "Sorry, son. How about £250,000 worth of W.H. Smith vouchers?" "Boring, boring, boring." Joe stamped his feet in frustration. Here was a boy with high-class problems. Mr. Spud looked forlorn. He wasn't sure there was anything left in the world that he could buy his only child. "Then what, son?" Joe suddenly had a thought. He pictured himself going round the racetrack all on his own, racing against himself. "Well, there is something I really want," he said tentatively. "Name it, son," said Mr. Spud. "A friend." So, of course, what Joe really wants is a friend. At one point in the story, he thinks that maybe he's actually, found the answer to this problem, but he soon realises that where money is concerned, all is not always as it seems. So it's a very, very funny story. Some children who've read this reckon that it's the funniest story they've ever read. It is very funny, it's hilarious, very touching as well, very moving, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of parents as well as owls who would like to read this book. I do hope you're going to enjoy these books, and I hope you'll print out the activities that I've written to accompany them.